Look at North America from orbit at night, and you notice something strange. The United States is an illuminated web, but the land above it is almost entirely dark. A single continent's worth of landmass has fallen away into blackness. That glowing seam is the only place where most of the country lives. 2 out of every 3 Canadians are pressed into a thin ribbon along the southern border, a crowded space covering only about 4% of the nation's territory. The density there is so intense, it creates a strange inversion at the border. Travelers standing in the empty stretches of northern Maine or upstate New York find more people and busier roads by crossing north into Canada than by driving deeper south into the United States. Freezing temperatures certainly play their part in this emptiness, but the deeper culprit has nothing to do with the weather. The true barrier to settlement is geological. 96% of the country is void of people because of a geological blueprint laid down billions of years ago. This ancient rock acts as a quiet, impassable fence across the continent. This is the Canadian Shield. It is a vast horseshoe of ancient bedrock wrapping around Hudson Bay, covering roughly half of Canada's entire land area, with rock that is nearly as old as the planet itself. For millions of years, continent-sized glaciers repeatedly crept across this bedrock, like a sheet of slow sandpaper. Each time the ice moved, it scraped the surface bare, carrying away soil and scouring the shield down to the bone. When the ice finally melted, 12,000 years ago, it left behind a landscape pockmarked with tens of thousands of lakes. They are beautiful from the air, but they are a signature of a land scraped clean. The water simply sits in the hollows where the soil used to be. This is solid granite, covered in only a few centimeters of poor, acidic dirt. It is biologically impossible to farm this terrain. No amount of human determination can grow wheat on 4-billion-year-old rock. Long before any human arrived, the land was robbed of its fertility. These glaciers effectively eliminated half the map from agricultural settlement before the first towns could even be imagined. Further north, the ground itself becomes an obstacle. In this zone, the earth is frozen solid year-round to depths of hundreds of meters. This is permafrost, and it is a constant enemy of human infrastructure. Foundations cannot rest on ground that thaws and heaves with the seasons. Pipes crack, roads buckle, and buildings tilt as the frozen earth softens and shifts. The very ground resists holding a town in place. Between the bare rock of the south and the frozen soil of the north sits the boreal forest. It is an immense, dark belt of spruce and pine that stretches across the continent in a single, almost unbroken band. This forest offers no margin for survival. The growing season opens late in spring and slams shut by September. A few warm months followed by immediate frost makes large-scale farming impossible, effectively closing the middle of the country to settlement. The tiny fraction of people who live in the far north are clustered in isolated outposts. These towns exist only because a specific, valuable resource, like diamonds or oil, had to be extracted from the earth. These are places of extraction, not heartlands. If the resource vanishes, the town empties within a generation because the land cannot sustain a community on its own. The combination of unstable ice in the north and impossibly short growing seasons in the middle deletes 96% of the country from the board. People settled where the land finally allowed it. Most found good ground in the fertile lowlands around the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River, where the soil is deep and the summers are long enough to matter. In the west, the rural population actually rises hundreds of kilometers north of the American border. This curve exists because the settlers were following the aspen parkland, a specific belt of rich soil. They built their homes wherever the earth could feed them. Historical infrastructure hardened this pattern. The transcontinental railway of the 1880s had to be threaded through these few workable southern corridors. Towns grew like beads along that single ribbon of steel, sprouting at the water stops and grain depots. Because the railway was forced south by the terrain, the population centers followed it. The location of every Canadian farm and the cities that grew between them followed the specific chemistry of the earth. Canada's population density is a mirror of its soil quality. While soil dictated the past, modern Canada is defined by its cities. Almost 74% of the population lives in large urban centers, away from the farms that first drew their ancestors to the southern edge. These cities stay pinned to the south because of the economic gravity of the United States. The busiest land border on the planet sees a staggering volume of trade every single day. For any Canadian business or factory, the customers and partners are overwhelmingly to the south. Geography effectively stacked the deck twice. The same narrow band of land with the best soil also happens to sit closest to the richest market in the world. The cities grew there because both the food and the money were in the same place. This pull is only strengthening. Southern downtown cores are currently booming, drawing more residents and jobs inward toward the lakeshores and the coasts. We like to believe we choose where to build our societies, but the glowing edge of Canada proves that our towering cities are still permitted and dictated by a 4-billion-year-old blueprint. The border is simply where the rock finally lets people live.